did you grow up?
Callahan, Florida.
In the city or a farm?
Farm, small farm. My dad was a mail carrier. We had about 4 rooms, bedrooms, and it's a normal house on the big field around it, cattle pen out to the side of the house. We would go out, I would go out and round up the cattle on the horse, and that was my daily duty in the afternoon. And I played basketball at school, so I'd have to run home almost, and because I didn't have a bus to go on. And by the time I got home, I had chores I had to do.
You said you rounded up the cattle on a horse, so how old were you when you started riding a horse?
Oh, 10, 11, I guess. No, when I learned, I probably learned when I was a baby. My dad always set babies up on the horse and take pictures and things.
What, did you have crops on the farm?
We had small crops. Dad was a mail carrier, and we farmed for anything we want, and if we had anything left over, he would take it to the farmer's market and sell it. And he just loved to go down there at night and do that.
Did y'all make sugar, do something with sugar cane?
We didn't make sugar, we made syrup. We had a cane grinder where you hitch your horse to the mill, and you'd stick the cane through 2 big rollers, and it would squash the juice out and run into a barrel. And from that, you would put it in the big boiler that we had and boil it until it made syrup.
Did you help with that when you were a
Oh,
child?
yeah. I did a little of all of it.
What
We were walking around with the horse. We had to walk with him to be sure that he didn't start running or something, because he had to take the, it was a huge pole out he was hooked to. And we had to be sure that someone was there, that he wouldn't try to get off, you know.
Could be dangerous?
No, they were very gentle horses.
What about those big rollers?
The big rollers, I almost got my hand caught in it one time. It was going, and I was just a small child. This is what they told me. And I got up there on the side where it rolled in, you know, and they happened to see me in time. But he would leave the horse out there going around to grind the cane juice out of the cane, and then he'd put that juice into the boiler, and that made the syrup by cooking it for so long.
What were your brothers and sisters like?
To me, they were wonderful. We got in fights. We'd have a scramble over anything almost if Daddy was around. Wait a minute, it's switching too. But it was fun. I really enjoyed the country. I never have enjoyed the city like I did the country.
I want to know what your childhood was like. Were you a happy child?
Oh yeah. I was in the country and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. My daddy had a little trouble getting off without me though. He had to take me when I was an infant, because I'd cry after me. He'd have to take me out there and set me up on he had fixed me a place I could sit up on the fence while he did his chores. And from then on, I was just part of it.
So your dad, he was a postal worker, and then he would have chores Before, after? Tell me about
Oh
that.
yeah, when you live on the farm, everybody has chores. It's just a thing that it takes. He would go milk cows and do all this before he went to work. And I was usually with him.
Did you ever get into trouble as a child?
Oh, many times. Someone as active as I.
What did you do? What's something that you did?
I can't remember the things I did, but it was just things that maybe I went to somebody's house without asking, or got mad with one of my sisters. That was the main thing. That was about the only thing that we really got in trouble with. It was each other.
Did you sneak into your dad's truck one time?
I slept. It was a Ford touring car. I got down in the floorboard and went to sleep. And I was too little to realize, that it could cause trouble, and they didn't know what had happened to me. And they had gone to every house in that neighborhood, in that country, it's a long ways to another house. And by the time that he found me, they were panicking.
Were you trying to sneak on his postal route?
Yes. I got in the car and lay down because he would look for me and tell me I couldn't go. One time I got on the running board and we got up the road a little ways and he hit a bump and I fell off and the car ran over my leg and I screamed and it scared him to death. Bless his heart. That's how bad I wanted to be with my dad.
Sounds like you were close with your dad.
I was very close with him. He was strict. Now don't get any ideas about him being. Well, he was too. He was both ways. He was very loving and very strict.
How were you disciplined as a child?
Switch. And he'd usually make us go out and cut it. If we came in with a small one, he'd send us back.
How would you describe a perfect day when you were a child?
As a child, just let me follow my daddy around, do whatever he's doing. So, I wouldn't be doing what he's doing, like milking cows or just anything. Just so I was with him. Mama was always cooking or doing something that you couldn't very well follow her around. But I sure made my daddy.
What were some of the things that you liked to do for fun as a child?
Well, we would play with my older sisters and anybody, neighbors or anything. We had a huge front. It's fenced in now, but at that time it was all open. And we'd get out there and play wolf and the sheep, if you know what it is, where you have one person in the middle. This is the wolf, and everybody runs through and he tries to catch him. And it was fun. And we would play hide and go seek. And mostly, I just like to follow my daddy around. But he carried the mail, and of course I couldn't all the time.
Did you enjoy school?
Yes, I did. I wasn't a bright student like my sister Warnell was, and I couldn't keep up with her grades, but I made passing grades, and there was some I did do better with than others, but I enjoyed school.
Did you like any subject in particular?
No, it was a school and I had to learn, but I enjoyed it. At night, my daddy would help me with my book. I mean, you know, we had homework we had to take in every day. So my daddy would help me.
Were you involved in any extracurricular activities with school?
Oh yeah, I played basketball. Get out that football sometime. I was more of a boy than a girl from living on the farm. But we played volleyball. I played all kind of athletics, just anything they did. And if we were on tournaments, I would usually win because I had more practice than most people. Unless it was somebody else out in the country, yeah. More practice walking and more energies, you know.
Were you competitive?
And those, I was, yeah, very much. And I got into everything I could. Every athletic. The county would come together and against each other, you know, and all kind of exercises and things. And I really enjoyed that. And I won most of the time.
Was there a teacher or teachers who had a strong influence on your life?
Well, I dated one of my teachers without anybody knowing it when I was in high school. But there was really one that was extremely nice to everybody. It wasn't just... But the one I dated is not that... Well, he was nice too, but he wasn't like the other one. The other one was just good with everybody. I need to tell you too, the school, we couldn't let them know we were dating because he wasn't allowed to date students.
It was a big secret.
My parents, of course, knew, but the school didn't.
Did y'all have to meet somewhere secret? Or?
We would just go to Jacksonville, and it was usually night, you know, and we'd go to Jacksonville and do things, you know, to a show. We didn't have anything in Callahan that we could go to, so that's why we had to go to Jacksonville.
How did you first meet Marcus?
I came to Tampa to see my aunt. Winnell was coming, so I had to come too. And well, she called me and told me that she had met some boys down at the grocery store, and she wanted me to come over so I could meet that good-looking guy. So I went over, and we went down to the store, and there was two. The brother was Colin was the best looking, but Marcus was one that asked me out for a date. So after I went home, that was in Tampa, and after I went home, he came down to see me, and it only took one time, I think, before we planned our wedding.
Do you remember what you did on your first date with Marcus?
On my first date with Marcus, Winnell was with me on the first date. we were all together, and we went to a movie.
How did you know he was the one?
You just don't have to be asked if it's the one. It's a feeling you get. After I met him, I didn't. That was the only boy I wanted. The man, he was 10 years older, and he was the only one I wanted. So he'd come up to see me. First time he was on his way to Georgia, and he didn't stay, but he just came up stop. And when coming back, he did the same thing. So it wasn't long before he asked me to marry him, about 5 or 6 months.
How did he ask you to marry him?
Well, he took me out to the front and we sat in the car and he said, I've got something I want to ask you. And we got in this car and of course he said, will you marry me? And I hadn't known him that long, you know, and Isabel liked him. But my Uncle Johnny, he had a grocery store in Tampa. He knew him real well. And so he was just really happy that I had said yes to him. So I went out with him 2 or 3 times while I was in Tampa. But then just one time, he came to Callahan, that's when he asked me to marry him.
Well, during your marriage, when you were young and married couple, did you have any funny stories or memories from that time? Trips that you taken or anything with the two of you?
Not really. He worked from daylight to dark and after dark too, in the grocery store. And back then they kept it open until 9 o'clock at night. He'd run over and eat, and we lived across the street. And he'd run over and eat and come back to the store to close up. His brother worked with him, except when he went into service. And then.
What advice do you have for young couples thinking about marriage or a relationship?
Just love each other and don't take everybody else's word for what you should do. You have your own life then separately. And too many parents try to. Of course, some people get married and they have no way to make a living, anything. They have to depend on parents. But if there's any way under the sun, they need to get out on their own when they get married. Because I think that can cause more trouble with the dad and mom wanting to tell them what they can do than anything else could happen. I think that could cause more trouble.
Tell me about your career. What did you do and how did you get started?
Can't remember how I got started. But I guess I just went down and told them I wanted a job. I love my career. I taught preschool. That's the little 4 and 5. And I couldn't have ever gotten a job I would love better than with children. And sometimes I had over 100 children on that playground. And but I never had trouble with them. One child I had to keep off my playground one time, but he was mentally off. And he would fight with every child he could. And I had to tell the mother to keep him because I didn't like to see him fight or the other child either. I wasn't going to have them picked on. But he seemed to have had some kind of a feeling that everybody hated him or something. And he was the only child I ever had any problem with. I had to ask her if she would keep him away.
How many years did you teach preschool, do you think?
Yeah, about 25 years. But I worked for the recreation department part-time before that, about 3 or 4 years.
I have friends, they're grandparents now, that still remember you as their kindergarten teacher. Have you heard from anyone that you've taught before over the years?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, on my 90th birthday, I guess, they had a big party for me. And I heard from, I have a stack of letters like that. I think most of them didn't know where I was or anything, you know, and because I was living with Cheryl, and I'm not in the phone book or anything.
What was it like to raise 6 daughters?
To what?
To raise 6 daughters?
Wonderful, just wonderful. Of course, they had their bad times, but it was just a punishment because they did it, and I wanted them to know not to do it again. And very seldom did they do it again.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a mama. That's the only thing I can remember I ever wanted to be. I love children. I've always loved them. My little brothers, I'd take care of them just like they were mine. And I just really love children. I couldn't have found anything I liked better, I don't think. And I didn't have too much trouble with them either. I'd have hundreds, 100 or more, sometimes in the summertime, and all of them would be on the playground quite a while, and some of them would be inside having another program. But I just didn't, just that one child I had to ask his parents to keep him up, but he had a mental problem, and it wasn't his fault.
What advice did you give your daughters about boys and dating?
Well, I told them they had to protect themselves, and if anything came up that they couldn't handle, to tell me about it. And sometimes they did ask me, you know, how to handle it or something. In fact, after they were married, a lot of times they would come talk with me. So.
Can you tell me about your faith?
I was a Baptist, belonged to the Baptist church. Of course, my daddy was a deacon, and there wasn't a service or anything that we missed the whole time I was growing up. Now, since then, I started staying home because after I'd get the children dressed for church and Sunday school and things like that, I didn't have time to get dressed. I'd go anytime I felt like I could get there, but I didn't. I went to church, but not Sunday school.
Was there a time when life was hard for you?
I grew up with things that were hard. But it was just something that we had to do, and we did it. No, it wasn't things I regretted because we couldn't eat if we didn't do it. I mean, you know, it was just things that was part of our life, and we had to do it. And we didn't ask questions because we knew if we ate, we had to eat.
What scares you?
What scares me? I guess somebody driving too fast. Well, when I was married, I was always afraid my husband was going to find another woman. And that's normal, I think. You know, because if they have to be around women all the time, like he had in the grocery store, that was my worst fear of anything else in my lifetime. Normal day? Well, I'll go out and blow off the driveway or work in the plants or there's plenty to do. I would rather have a lot to do, more than I can do than not enough, because I don't like to sit around either. I like to be doing something as long as I feel right, and then I want to go lay down.
What is your happiest memory?
Happiest memory? I had a lot of happy memories. I guess it's when I got married. Or when I had my first baby. I don't know. You know, they all just mean so much to you.
How does it feel to have such a large family and even great-grandchildren?
I'm proud of it. I'm so proud of it. I tell everybody. I think it's 4 great.
What is the secret to happiness?
Secret to happiness? It's not what you have, it's how you think. A lot. Is this good for me, or if it's bad for me? Or because will it hurt somebody? I can say I've had almost everything I've wanted in life. I guess everything. I had my family, which of course my husband and my family, and family, and that's all I ever really wanted. I worked because I needed to at the time. Marcus wasn't making much money. And I loved the job. I loved children. And so I stayed with them 20 years. 21 years, I think it was.
Is there anything that you want to say directly to your family?
I love my family with all my heart, and that goes to greats all the way up.